You found yourself here because your front wheels have come off your Worx Landroid L2000 robot mower, and you want some nerd on the internet to offer you a solution. Depending on where in the world you're living, you can buy replacement wheels easily for a reasonable price, which was not an option available to me. Or you can take the existing wheels apart, get some 8mm Starlock washers and reassemble them, because what has happened to your wheels is the Starlock washer that retains it on the axle has failed. Alternatively, you could decide to do what I've done, which is to make a new wheel and improve on the original design. The first thing you need to do is to disassemble your machine. I did not video this because there's a YouTube by the handle Meaning1 who has done a good video on this already. I'll include a link in the description below. I do not condone his use of power tools on screws that are threaded into plastic, however.
Okay, in order to remove the spindle that holds the caster, you remove these 3 screws here, here and here. Okay, disconnect this lead here, and then rock this back and forward, and it should come up relatively easily with a bit of gentle persuasion. Do not put too much pressure on this white tab electrical connection here. That's your lift sensor. You do not want to damage that. A little bit of levering at the edge with a screwdriver, specifically one you don't care about, a flathead screwdriver you don't care about damaging, will help. Being careful not to damage anything else. Remove that. Then you remove this magnet holder here. Carefully put that to one side, and you will see that the whole caster assembly is actually held by a star washer here. In order to get that out, you take aforementioned screwdriver that you don't really care about, and you hit this at least in 3 spots to break the star washer. You might be able to use that again, but I would recommend replacing it with another star washer, star retaining washer, in future. And once you have that out comes your spindle. Remove these 2 washers and also keep those to one side.
So what I did next was I cut an M8 thread on the axle of both axles, no more than 15mm long. I found the steel of the axles to be quite hard, so I started with an M9 die before moving on to cutting it with an M8 die. I then 3D printed the wheels I designed. The links for the files on printables are in the description below.
Okay, so you've printed your replacement wheel. Fine, you get the axle that you have tapped. If you don't have this plastic bushing that was on the original one, there is a file of my printables to make a replacement. Put it on, put the bearing on the end, this side in first, like so. It's through like that. Bearing in this side here. Your 608 bearing goes in this side. Might be a tight fit, but it should go in easily enough. And to get it home the rest of the way, you will find that you can use a 13mm socket to push that in the rest of the way, and that you need to use the table first and use a 13mm socket Apply a bit of gentle pressure. Washer goes in over that. 8mm lock nut. Drive that with which you will obviously drive with a 13mm socket. You want to get that on so that screwed in nice and tight just to push the bearings in the last little section. And it's going to be too stiff, and just slacken off your lock nut until you've got a freely turning wheel. Nylock is still engaged in the your nylock still engaged in the thread, so that it won't move later. That's it. And then next thing to do is install it on the Landroid. And start. Okay, so you have your wheel, and you want to put it back in the robot. Start by putting this washer back on here, that you took off earlier. Pop it in here.
Okay, we'll pause for a second there so that you don't make the mistake that I just made. There should be two washers that go on the shaft at this point, and if you don't have both washers, then you will get a lot of lift errors on the robot. So don't make the mistake that I just made, and ensure that you have both washers installed.
Here, then get your Starlock washer like this, and then using a socket, 10mm socket, 1/4 inch socket, I found worked quite well. Use that to help get a start on the shaft. So I'm just applying gentle pressure, static pressure down until it pops on. And there it is. Once it's on a bit, then you get your magnet for the sensor, for the anti-lift sensor, and you clip that back on. Observe there, this side is up. Okay, that clips on nicely. And then you get your cover. Before you put on your cover, you need to pop in the sensor that would have come out earlier. Sensor is designed that it can only go back in the correct way. And you put that on top there. You can get a good look at that. And this will not go on. Let's push this down a little. This will only go on the right way as well. Okay. Just takes a little bit of jiggery pokery to get it in. It's keyed so that the screws will go back in the right location. And then you get your 3 securing screws from earlier. They're smaller than all the other screws that you would have used earlier when disassembling the main part of the chassis. Pop those back in their holes, 1, 2 and 3, and screw them home, and you're done.